Hi guys, welcome to Universal Scroll. My name is Yossi, and if you're new to this platform, this is the Universal United Christian family, open to all desiring to discover God better and grow spiritually. And if that is you, then you should subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell to get notified when we release a new video, and of course, like this video and share with your friends and family so that they can join the Universal Scroll family. We love you all and we like to see you grow spiritually. Now, today I'm going to be talking about obeying God. Now, as children of God, it is fundamental for us to obey our Father. Now, what this means is for us to first of all identify how He wants us to live our lives and then model our lives in alignment with His will. Now, as humans, we have our natural instincts and preferences, and the Bible lets us understand that as Christians, we are to subject these natural instincts and preferences, which we call flesh, and bring it under subjection to the will of God. So it is God's will and instructions and how He wants us to live our lives that is, the most important thing. And then we bring our fleshly desires and preferences to be in alignment with that. So sin is when we go contrary to God's will and we choose to, please our natural fleshly desires over the will of God. So as a Christian, we have our spirit being made alive, and that spirit being made alive is supposed to be ruling our entire being. It's supposed to be ruling our body and our soul. So when the reverse is the case and it is the flesh that is ruling, then this is where sin becomes very much paramount in the life of an individual. So for us to ensure that we are constantly in alignment with the will of God, then we must bring our ideas, our ideologies, our philosophies, our principles, our preferences, and the way we have chosen to live our lives, and ensure that they are in alignment with the way God has told us to live our lives. Now, any of those ideas and ideologies and principles that are not in alignment with the way God has told us to live our lives must be brought down. As Christians, this is not up for debate. We cannot pick and choose what we want from Christianity and then decide that, okay, I like this instruction, so I'm going to abide by this one, but I'm not going to abide by this one because it doesn't just sit right with me. There's none of that. We have to take the whole package. So if we're going to be professing that we are Christians, then we must abide with the holistic way of life that God has told us to live, and that is to live like Christ. Now, there are several principles that God has asked us to live by that I see a lot of Christians struggling with, including myself. Now, one of which is, loving our enemies. Now, the natural instinct for us as humans is that when we identify somebody as our enemy, then we're going to also be enemies with that person. We're not going to, love that person. We're going to, keep that person at arm's length. We're actually not going to like that person at all. But the Bible tells us that we should love our enemies. In fact, we're to go extra mile for our enemies. So when we know that somebody doesn't like us, we actually to show love to that person. Now, this can be really tough because, the natural instinct is to just, return fire for fire, and that's another thing. An eye for an eye is not allowed in Christianity. So even if somebody does you something really evil, you're not to do evil to that person in return. You're supposed to actually do good to that person in return, and according to the scriptures, that rains a coal of fire on that person, and even by your good doing, you can win that person over to the Lord. Now, another tough one is no sex outside of marriage. What that means is that there is no fornication, so you're not to be engaging in sex before marriage, and sex is only allowed within the four walls of marriage. Now, as humans, this is quite tough because our natural instinct is to please our sexual desires, but as Christians, we are to subject those sexual desires under the will of the Father, and that means that we are to have self-control to be able to control those sexual desires and wait until marriage before enjoying the pleasures of sex. And still talking about sex, according to the scriptures, is to be done strictly between a man and a woman. So as Christians, we cannot stand with homosexuality. Another important one is that as Christians, the man is the head of the home and the woman is to submit to her husband in love, and the man is to love his wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Now, what this means is that there's a good synergy of love between the two of them. And just as the saying goes that you cannot have two captains in a ship, this is to allow for the overall smooth running of the home. Now, there's several principles in the Bible that God has asked us to live by, and it is good for us to take out some time to read the scriptures and to understand them so that we can live our lives in alignment with them. There is no excuse. I mean, you cannot use ignorance as an excuse. So you have to study the Word of God to know what God says about every single aspect of life and then bring your life in alignment with the will of God. So as Christians, we must realize that our way of life is different from that of the world. In the world, the system that runs is selfism, pleasing oneself. So they follow their natural instincts and preferences and do whatever they feel like. But as Christians, the Bible tells us that the heart is deceitful, and so we cannot trust it. Instead, we bring our hearts and our desires under the scrutiny of God to ensure that we are moving in alignment with God's will. And we see that God's will is for the overall good of ourselves and the entire world. Now, if you'd like to watch a video picturing how the world would be like if everyone lives their lives however they please, following their every instinct, then please click the link here. Now, I hope this video has been of a blessing to you, and if so, please ensure that you subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell to get notified when we release a new video, and of course, like this video and share with your friends and family so that they can join the Universal Scroll family. We love you all and would like to see you in the next video. Until then, we can hang out on our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Love you all. Bye.